What's up, ladies and gentlemen? So I'm back with another episode in this pregnancy series, and my belly's definitely getting bigger each week. So in today's episode, I want to talk about nausea. So I know this is a very important topic for a lot of women because when you're young, you may have seen your mom or other moms in your community who've dealt with nausea and vomiting in the first trimester, and you think that you're just gonna deal with the same thing and you're super nervous about it. That's what happened to me. I remember my mom had very, very intense nausea. She would be throwing up, every hour. She'd be running to the bathroom. She couldn't keep food down. And her nausea lasted well into the second trimester. So I grew up thinking that's just the norm. I thought that, when I'm pregnant, I'm just gonna be throwing my brains out and that's just how it is. But you grow up and you realize that it doesn't have to be that way and it's not that intense for everyone. So I want to talk about nausea, what causes it, how you can mitigate it and kind of reduce the symptoms and the severity of it, and the miraculous reason why nausea exists, because a lot of people don't really understand why it happens, but I want to explain to you there's actually a fundamental, very beautiful physiological reason for it to exist. And so yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode. So anywhere between 70 to 80% of pregnant women will have nausea. So if you're the lucky one that doesn't have it, you're in the minority. So most women will have nausea in their first trimester and then it'll go away by the time they get to the second trimester. There's a very slight chance that some women also can have it into the second trimester and third trimester as well, but that's rare. And then there's also some women who have very intense levels of nausea. It's called HG. That's only affects 1 to 2% of women. And this is where your nausea and vomiting is so intense that you can be hospitalized, you can be dehydrated, you just can't keep anything down. But that extreme is less common. Most often what happens for women is that you're just feeling queasy. So you wake up and you feel just unwell, you feel nauseous, you want to eat something because you're kind of hungry, but then everything just sounds awful to you except for bread and crackers and very starchy food. And some women literally thrive on bread and sports drinks during the first trimester. What you experience is going to be hit or miss. How intense it is going to be hit or miss, but most women will have some level of nausea. And historically, the way that physicians and the medical system explain nausea is that it is caused by the hormones. So you have a huge rise in a hormone called HCG in the early weeks of pregnancy, between weeks 5 through 12. And the HCG rises most intensely between weeks 7 to 10, 11. So during those weeks is when the nausea also intensifies. So the thinking went that because HCG is rising so rapidly, that's what causes you to experience nausea. And the other reasons that were stated were that your estrogen is rising really quickly, your progesterone is rising, and progesterone also slows gut motility. So that can explain why you just can't keep anything down, or you just feel you don't want to eat anything. And so all of these hormones increasing in very, very large amounts in pregnancy was the reason that people assumed nausea happens. And it's not to say that that's false, because these hormones can definitely impact nausea and they can be triggers for nausea. But there's a lot of good research, more recent research, that shows that it's not necessarily the root cause of nausea. What actually causes nausea is there's a protein called GDF15, which is released by the placenta. And it's been shown in studies that the higher amount of GDF15 you have, the more nauseous you feel in your pregnancy. This is fascinating because this approach of looking at nausea was never really studied before. And there's another compound called hydrogen sulfide, which also makes nausea worse. So these two compounds are created by the placenta and they increase in pregnancy, especially early pregnancy. They cause food aversions and just nausea and the lack of desire to eat certain foods. The reason this is happening is because it is a protective mechanism. So your body is essentially trying to protect you from potential toxins and other harmful exposures that you could have through food. So this is why these compounds increase in pregnancy, so that you don't actually consume foods that could have harmful things. For example, a lot of women will feel nauseous just like thinking about meat. Like I couldn't even think about red meat for the entire first trimester for all 3 pregnancies. Like the thought of eating red meat was just like, ugh, like I do not want that. And that was my body basically saying, okay, there could be potential toxins in red meat, and so we're gonna avoid it. And my body was probably just not wanting to deal with that stressor, and it just wanted to avoid it, so it starts making me averse to it. Other women, for example, some women can't tolerate any meat at all, like chicken, fish, nothing. Luckily, I was able to tolerate fish and chicken to some levels depending on the day. Yeah, it's just your body signaling that like, hey, this food could be toxic for you and your baby, and I'm gonna protect you, and I'm gonna make you not want it. I'm gonna make you throw up if you eat it, basically. And so learning about this mechanism made so much more sense to me than just saying like, okay, like your hormones are going up, so you're nauseous. Like, yeah, that is a factor, but like, why? Like, why? What actually causes the nausea to get triggered? And understanding it from this perspective made a lot of sense. It's like, it's literally a protective mechanism. Your body is trying to protect you. And the reason some women experience more nausea than other women is, I mean, there's a couple reasons. So one is the more GDF-15 protein that you have during pregnancy, the more nauseous you're likely to feel. There's been research on this, and there's a strong correlation between women who have very intense nausea and them having higher levels of GDF-15. The other thing is, if prior to pregnancy you had very low levels of GDF-15, your body hasn't built the tolerance to that protein, so then when it increases in pregnancy, you experience much more severe nausea. So in that regard, there is a genetic component to why some women get very, very severe nausea to the point where it becomes HG, where like, you know, they're super dehydrated, they can't keep anything down, they even get hospitalized, IVs and all that. It's that like your body is just more susceptible to producing more of this protein. And there's some now more research around like, okay, like does it make sense to try to regulate how much of this GDF-15 protein the body's making in women who have like very severe debilitating nausea? And it's a very controversial topic because in some regard, like I said, the nausea is a very protective mechanism. It's protecting the baby, it's protecting the fetus from potential toxins. Because remember, the first trimester is like, even though your belly is not growing big, there's not like size growth in the baby. From a development perspective, all of the critical things are happening in the first trimester. All the organs, the nervous system, the brain, all of that is forming in the first trimester. So it is a very, very delicate period. So the body wants to protect itself as much as possible from toxin exposure. There's now research, like I said, around trying to potentially modulate GDF-15 to reduce nausea in women, but it's controversial because it's like GDF-15 also serves a protective mechanism, right? It's protecting you and your baby from toxins. So yeah, that's the world of science and the science behind what causes nausea. And from a day-to-day practical standpoint, like my experience was kind of different, honestly, all 3 pregnancies when it comes to nausea. So with the first pregnancy, I didn't experience that much nausea. I had some, so there were some mornings, probably for like 2 or 3 weeks, where I would just feel nauseous and then it would just go away by like 11 or 12 o'clock. It was manageable. I did have some food aversions, like I just didn't want red meat. I didn't want certain foods I used to love, I just didn't want anymore. But I remember red meat was a big thing because I was eating red meat like every single day prior to pregnancy, and then suddenly I just like did not want it. So in the first pregnancy, yeah, my nausea was mild at best, and then I had aversions to red meat. The second pregnancy, I had a little bit more nausea, but it was kind of the same. It was still mild, just for a couple weeks, just in the mornings, and then it would just disappear. And again, I had aversions to red meat, and I think there was a few other aversions I had. I don't remember exactly, but I know, again, it was a very similar experience, but I had a few more aversions besides red meat. In the third pregnancy, it was different. So this pregnancy was definitely humbling because I experienced nausea, and it hit me hard week 5. So like a week after I found out I was pregnant, I was nauseous. I don't know, I never really vomit, so I'm not a person to vomit. Like I don't remember the last time I vomited, and so I wasn't vomiting per se, but I was definitely nauseous, and it wasn't a morning thing either. Like I would wake up nauseous and I would like go to sleep nauseous. It was like an all day thing. And it went on from week 5 all the way to, I would say, week 10 or week 11. And there was a couple periods where like it disappeared for like 3 or 4 days, but then it came back and I was like, oh gosh, and then disappeared again and came back. But it was just pretty much from week 5 to end of week 10, I was nauseous. And then after that, it just kind of went away. And not only was I nauseous, but I had a lot more food aversions this time. So red meat was out of the picture. I was not eating red meat. Chicken, like I had to like force myself to eat it, but I could put it down. Sushi, I felt great on. Like I loved sushi. But the weird thing is like I would crave sushi or, you know, poke bowls, and then I would eat it and then I would feel awful afterwards. So I don't know what my body was trying to tell me. Like maybe it was just like afterwards it was like, no, this is not what I wanted. But like from like, you know, I was eating a lot of canned fish, cooked fish I felt great on. And I had a huge aversion to dark chocolate, whereas like before pregnancy, I was eating a ton of dark chocolate. So that was strange. I was also very averse to any kind of like protein mixes, like hot drinks made me nauseous. I didn't want any hot drinks. Whereas like I love hot drinks. Like hot drinks are my thing. I love having like warm milk and hot chocolate night, all that, but I had to cut that out because it just made me nauseous. So this pregnancy was definitely interesting in that I had more nausea and way more food aversions. Maybe it's because like me and my husband were hypothesizing that maybe it's because it's my 3rd pregnancy. So, and between each one, it's about a 1-year gap. And so maybe this time I'm a little bit more depleted compared to the 1st and 2nd pregnancy. So my body's under more metabolic stress. And so it's just a lot more susceptible to toxin exposure and not wanting to deal with that. So it increased my nausea. That's my hypothesis. I could be totally wrong, but that's my guess. That's all about nausea, what causes it and how I felt. So now I want to talk about when you have nausea, what should you do, right? Like how can you actually get rid of nausea if you have it? The truth is there's really no magic pill to get rid of it. You just have to get through those first 10, 11, 12 weeks. And it sucks. Like I remember reading so many Reddit forums about nausea, like this, that, and like I was just, every day was just like, I was just counting the days. I was like, I hope this gets better soon. I hope this gets better soon, because like there's really no blanket solutions out there to heal nausea. Like that's just the truth. But with that said, there are ways that you can lower it and make yourself feel better. One thing is keeping your blood sugars stable. So if you don't eat for long periods of time when you're pregnant and when you're nauseous, it will make your nausea worse. So really think about eating every hour, every 2 hours if you have to. And these are not like huge meals. You're not eating like a lunch every 2 hours. You're taking in small snacks throughout the day so that your blood sugar stays stable. If your blood sugar dips, that is gonna make your nausea way worse and you're gonna feel way worse. So the number one thing I did was I noticed that I started just eating more often and eating smaller meals. And also I found that eating things like bread and cracker, like very drying food, things that like soaked up liquids in my stomach, felt good. Whereas like very wet foods, I couldn't fathom. So you gotta listen to your body. What is your body wanting? Like I wanted like breads and like potatoes and more bread, crackers, things like that were very starchy, bready, and kind of could soak up liquid. And so that's what helped me. So you gotta figure out, like, you gotta listen to your body and figure out what helps you. Some women like love to just live on electrolyte drinks throughout their first trimester, which is great because you do not want to get dehydrated in that first trimester. I would highly recommend taking electrolytes. They will help with your overall blood sugar balance and not getting dehydrated from the nausea and the vomiting. So keep your blood sugar stable if you want your nausea to not be worse than it already is. And then in terms of supplements, there are a couple of supplements that I would recommend. So B6, vitamin B6 is often commonly recommended for nausea, and it doesn't heal the root cause of nausea. Like obviously, like I said, like the reason your body's nauseous is because it's metabolically stressed and it doesn't want to have to deal with any new stressors like toxins. And so it's causing you to be nauseous so that you don't put into your mouth food that could make it have to deal with that toxin. So it's not going to heal the root cause of your metabolic stress per se, but vitamin B6 is been shown to kind of help with nausea. So I would recommend taking vitamin B6, and you got to ask your provider what the right dosage is for you. But there are some like nausea gummies and stuff on the market that have vitamin B6 that you can try, and I found that it did give me some relief. The other big thing that did give me relief, and everyone says this, is ginger. But ginger tea and stuff like that didn't make a difference. Like, that didn't do jack shit because it's just not enough ginger in ginger tea. What helped me was taking like really high dose of ginger. I think it was like 600 milligrams a couple times a day. Like, taking that very high dose did help. I felt better. Like, I felt like my food was not sitting in my stomach. I didn't feel like it was like turning over. And there's a really good nausea gummy by Fullwell, Fullwell. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but I really liked it. That's one thing I would recommend. And then besides that, I would say, magnesium is going to be really critical because it's going to help you sleep, it's going to calm you down. And I find that if I don't take magnesium, it just made my nausea worse. So I was taking magnesium religiously every single day during pregnancy. So those are the 3 supplements I would recommend. It's B6, ginger, and magnesium. And if your nausea is like really bad, your provider might recommend some pharmaceutical drugs. I wouldn't recommend staying away from them if you can. Technically, they are safe in pregnant women, but I just don't think it's necessary to take pharmaceutical drugs. I think you should just allow your body to rest. Stop trying to do too many things in that first trimester. Just take it easy and deal with the nausea rather than relying on pharmaceutical drugs where, who knows, there might be new research in the future that says actually this is not that good for you, right? So that's my recommendation of like what supplements to take to kind of mitigate nausea. So yeah, that kind of sums up honestly this episode. I talked about what causes nausea, why the body uses it as a very protective mechanism to protect you and the baby from toxins. I talked about things that you can do to improve nausea, like keep your blood sugar stable by eating frequently, keep yourself hydrated, take certain supplements like B6, ginger, and magnesium, and just sleep and take it easy. Like, first trimester, you just have to surrender to the process. You're growing a miraculous baby in your womb, and it may require that you take things off your plate. You don't commit to certain things so that you can rest more and sleep more and just sleep through the nausea, because the reality is that's what's going to get you through. Like, you're just going to rest and sleep and it'll get better, and within no time you'll be at the end of your first trimester and you won't be nauseous anymore. So like, I would say surrender to the process, surrender to the experience. Just know that, you're doing such sacrificial work to create a baby, and nausea is just part of that work. And I hope you found this episode helpful.